Kia ora. In this episode, we do talk about domestic violence, which we know can be a mamae topic for lots of people. So if you don't feel you're in the right space for this, kaya koe.
I always think it sort of goes back down to like when I was young and my thinking of I'm not enough, not doing enough and, you know, not Māori enough. But really it's more about, I guess, self-love and self-acceptance and just accepting that you are where you are and you are who you are. And we're all uniquely, you know, divine through our whakapapa. So why, like,
Divine.
bars?
Nau mai haere mai ki Kapiti of the Cousins, episode 9, Self-Love and Skinheads. Kia ora.
Kia ora.
Hi, Auntie.
Hi, my beautiful ātāhua niece and daughter.
No.
Stop. Keep going. No.
It's funny that you led with that because I remember growing up, as a tamaiti, I always looked at you and thought you were the most beautiful woman in the whole world. As a mama. As a mama, but also just in your appearance. And I also vividly remember just being around any whānau and they'd always come up to me and say, oh my gosh, you're a spitting image of your father. And I would be so devastated. Not because he's like ugly or anything, but just because
He's a man. And
yeah, because he's a man. And I was like, oh my gosh, but my mum's the most beautiful woman in the world and I want to look like her.
don't make me cry.
But I also thought it was super funny because also as a kid, I thought that I was really suspicious about you being my mum.
I remember that.
Because no one ever said that I looked like you. They all said that you look like your dad.
I do remember you coming to me when you were like 7 and being like, I actually don't think you're my mum. Who's my real mum? And I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean I'm your mum? Yeah. And you're like, I don't look anything like you and I'm nothing like you, so who's my real mum?
Goodness, Jay.
Yeah, I was a brutal kid, man. Kids just say what they want to say.
Savage.
Don't look at me like that.
I will look at you like that.
And so I'm really interested to have you tell us just a little bit about your upbringing and how you found being a wahine Māori in Te Waipounamu or Tautahi.
I think growing up I had a really quite I want to say sheltered upbringing. It was just sort of me, Papa and Nan. Interestingly enough, I never really, I think I've spoken to you about this a little bit before, but I didn't actually know that I was Māori. I was just me. Didn't realise that my dad was Māori.
Really?
No. Yeah, probably about 8 or 9 at Hallswell Primary School, and the teachers made us stand up and say our full names, and I said, Cassandra Ngāwhitu Lei, and all these kids like beside me started snickering and what does that mean? I mean, you like I'm feeling really like vulnerable and like, oh, what's going on? Why is everyone laughing? What does it mean? You know, I'm not even knowing myself. Just knew that was my name, and then went home and said to Dad, like, oh, these kids were like laughing at me today, and he was like, why? And I was like, because I said my middle name and it's Ngāwhitu, and he was just like, well, it's Māori, and I'm like, it's what? Am I Māori? And he's like, yeah.
Oh, so you knew what about Māori?
Yeah, I just didn't realise that was when I first sort of started to make those connections. Like, oh, okay, I'm Māori. Oh, so yeah, it was just a weird experience. And then we were building out at Rapaki, and that's when we moved over there. And that was really where my journey
Went
started.
down.
Oh, man.
Just, where my
The
journey
beginning
started.
of the end.
Do you think that impacted, or just that experience impacted your sort of sense of self or your identity?
I think I was still really confused. I just remember always feeling like growing up a lot of the time that I didn't really fit in with Te Ao Māori and wasn't sort of Māori enough, and then not fitting in with Te Ao Pākehā, not being Pākehā enough, and I just was walking sort of in the middle and feeling really confused and like, where do I actually belong? Where do I actually fit? And like they said throw around this word half-caste a lot. And I remember going to Dad being like, what does half-caste mean? But yeah, it was just always that, or like, are you Māori? And I'd be like, yeah. How much Māori? Like, what else are you? Are you other things? Like, and being like, well, I just say Māori, is that not enough?
Oh my God, I got the same thing. Like, somebody asked me, are you Māori? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, what's your other half?
Other half is crazy. Yeah.
I was like, Maori. Why did I say Maori? I've never said that before in my life, and suddenly I said it on camera. Yeah, but it's crazy. People say crazy stuff all the time to your face. Also, the kids that were saying, are you half-caste or you're half-caste, were they Pākehā or were they Māori kids?
Both.
I don't find that surprising.
Yeah, that's
that it
classic.
comes from both. And also in that time as well, I feel like now it's a little bit more like, oh, we don't use the word half-caste. I haven't heard that in a while. But yeah, I can definitely imagine at that time people were a lot more liberal with saying whatever they wanted to people. As a wahine Māori, did you feel that Christchurch or Tutahi was a safe space to be?
Not really. It was just random. We had to catch like 3 buses pretty much to get into high school each day. So we'd end up in the square and there was just, there'd be a lot of fights. We'd hang out at like a place called Wizards, which was like a spacey parlour back in the day. Everyone would congregate there. And
A spacey parlour?
What's a spacey parlour?
like Time Zone.
Like the video arcade.
Spacey video arcades, yeah. Sorry, I'm ancient. So yeah, we'd hang out there and there'd be a lot of like what my dad used to call homies. And us homies would be like the ones with the big inserts in the pants and the MC Hammer pants and the, the out there fashion that we wore. And we'd sort of all congregate together, but then there was a whole lot, like back in the day, there were a lot of white power and skinheads around too, and they were really noticeable, like not like today. I don't feel like it's noticeable in Christchurch as much. But, people wearing full-on black, absolutely no hair, the Doc Martens with the white laces that represented, like white power. And always being fights between the Māori and Polynesian and the white power in town, and it was quite not safe.
Did they hassle you much? Or I guess if you were in the homie
Yeah,
cool
because I was
kids
hanging
crew.
out with, I was. And I actually had I think when I was about 17, I was seeing a Māori boy, and he was quite a dark Māori boy, and walking with him and getting chased through town by these carload of skinheads calling me I don't want to say the word N-lover. You N-lover. Chasing, beeping their horn. And us like running through the streets trying not to get hit by this car. But
Was it 90s?
Yeah.
That's like recent. Like really recent to be having the N-word thrown at you.
Yeah, it was pretty, it's different, but I was quite really quite staunch, right? Like, I'm not confused. You don't know who I am and what I am, sort of thing. Like, I'm not only, I'm Māori too. Why are you just calling me an N-lover sort of thing? Like, it's just randomly weird.
That's such a funny takeaway from that. It's like, no, I'm Māori too. What about me?
I'm also.
Come and get me. sorry.
But it was almost like, what do you mean calling me an N-lover? So weird.
I have fuck up.
Yeah, hey, I'm from
That's
here
the
too.
takeaway.
But yeah, no, I mean, it was never a safe, it was never safe going into town. I mean, then we used to have carloads of us on the weekends that would the thing would be like to jump in our cars and they'd all have like baseball bats and everything to go out to Rangiora to like beat up the skinheads because that's where they all congregated.
Was it like did you say
Like a Friday
Sunday?
night,
Oh,
a Friday night
Oh my
thing.
gosh.
You'd get in your car with baseball bats
Yeah.
to go and beat up
Yeah.
white power.
You've
Yeah, they
never
would.
told me this.
Haven't I?
No.
The other side of the coin.
Corridor, you. But yeah, it would be like, let's go get those gunheads, you know, because that's the animosity that was going on that time.
That's bad.
Yeah, it was really bad. It was bad. So yeah, that's what I don't think it's not like that in Christchurch anymore, but that's what we grew up with.
Yeah, no, I definitely don't think I had that sort of experience.
Yeah, we'll be getting some baseball bats after this. Chuck them in the car. Let's go, Jade.
This is the tikanga. That's better. Gotta keep it safe. We've spoken a bit about being at the pā, but how did you feel like you connected into your kaitahu Kāti Whike?
I feel like it's only happened as I've gotten older.
Really?
Yep. I just remember, like, as much as I knew that it was home and I loved being there, I, like we all do, ventured away, did my own thing, and stayed away for I was disconnected for quite a long time, I think. Yeah, to be honest. I started the real journey, then stopped, and then, you know, got with, had relationships with men that weren't particularly healthy. In fact, probably, outright dysfunctional and abusive, if I be honest. And yeah, stepped out of that space, and as you quite often do when you're in those spaces, you're quite isolated. So I felt like, isolated myself a lot, and have only really, I would say in the last 10 years maybe, come back into it hard. When I was younger, there was probably less education and kōrero around domestic violence in general. In fact, it was probably semi-condoned almost to a point. It was almost a bit like, I don't know, I hate to say it because it sounds disgusting, but it was almost like, you know, I can take it. I can take a punch. It's all good, you know. I'm strong. I'm going to stay there to the end, you know. But I think now what I'm seeing through the younger generations, even like with your generation, like a lot of education around domestic violence and like words like narcissism and gaslighting and like things to look out, you know, educating people about domestic violence is a lot more out there. I feel like when we were young, it wasn't really spoken about. And if you did, you know, if you were in that space, it was kind of like no one else's business. People didn't want to get involved. Like, I'm just staying out of that one. So yeah, I think things have changed. I think you can be in a relationship that with someone who is broken and traumatized and comes from a place of hurt, and so if you're continuously putting your energy trying to fix, appease, help, support that person, you can totally deplete yourself. And you've got to learn that, like, you can't actually change anyone as much as you want to, or you might see potential in someone, or you might think like, you know, well, if only, you know, if a person doesn't want to change 100%, they're not going to. So the only person you can really, you know, change is yourself. I was sick of that version of myself as well, if that makes sense. That version of me that was tolerating and experiencing these situations was just like, nah, no more. Like, I'm over that. And yeah, a lot of growth and healing comes from that realization, but it actually has to be your own, you know, like your own mindset. Can't be like people saying you should leave, or why don't you do this, or why don't you do that. So whatever. You're like, oh. You're not ready to hear it, and you don't want to hear it. You're not going to change, and there's really deep down you're like, I need to change, so that I'm going to do something different, and then that's when the change happens.
That honestly sounds to me like addiction in a way, you know, when people are talking about like trying to give up drugs, but if they're not ready to like give it up, you just have to wait for them to be ready.
It's a cycle, right? I think you have to really look at where that trauma comes from, that you feel it's okay for someone to treat you like that it's acceptable. So I feel like a lot of, like, not wanting to get too deep and personal, but I think a lot of trauma comes down from like when I was quite young and experiences that happened to me with young Tāne, where I blamed myself and hated myself and a lot of self-loathing and because it was such a, from such a young age, the rest of my adult relationships were similar, attracting the same type of people. And I think it wasn't until I had to really look at myself, but I was too busy trying to fix everybody and make everything good. Like, it wasn't until I looked inwardly, that's when the light bulb. And like I said, it took a long time.
Something that I see, like, through the mahi that you do with whānau Māori, like, I see it as also a real positive, which sounds kind of harsh to say, like, oh, you went through all this for this reason. But I feel like there is a more positive side to it because you're able to now be in the position of strength to help whānau Māori who are maybe struggling with those things that you can relate to as well, and kind of have that background knowledge of how to tautoko them.
I love my mahi. Like, I love it. I love being able to help people in that space. So I'm a whānau ora navigator, and for whānau ora for me is walking alongside whānau and help navigate through situations, but it's whānau centred, so it's whatever they're wanting to, work towards or work on. And I think, like, even though I had an amazing whānau, I still felt when I was going through abusive relationships, dysfunctional relationships, hard times, there was a lot of whakamā and shame in that, and I really didn't feel like I wanted to reach out to any whānau with that. It was almost like I need to, what's that old saying, you made your bed, now lie in it, sort of thing. Like, I got myself into the situation, I need to get myself out of the situation. Which is such a, looking back, it's just like, I should have just reached out, but I just didn't know how. So I feel like because I've been through a lot of those experiences personally, whānau can relate to me, or I can relate to them in a lot of situations, and it's been really really humbling and a privilege, really, to be able to help whānau through that, because they feel they can trust me, maybe when they can't trust their own immediate whānau, or they're feeling shame, or they're feeling like, I don't know who to turn to. If they've got, even just one person in their corner, I feel like that can make all the difference. That can be the switch.
Have you heard of the thing where, or I think it's a theory where if you experience trauma, then it passes on intergenerationally. You already have that in your
That's stored in
yourself, and then ka puta mai te pepe. Pardon?
Epigenetics.
Oh, it is a thing. Oh, wow.
Epigenetics.
Epigenetics.
Yes, epigenetics. Epigenetics.
So, epigenetics. I was going to say, I wonder if that's a genuine thing, especially for Māori. Like, we've gone through so much stuff, and sometimes I do wonder, or like just seeing certain patterns and how it is so hard to break these intergenerational cycles that we get caught in.
It's interesting that you go into that, because it's just like makes me think about how as much as we can pass down intergenerational trauma, we can also pass down intergenerational joy and talent and like the traits of our tupuna. It's like, oh, if they were like this, maybe I am also like that.
And seeing yourself through them in a way.
Yeah, so I think that it's really hopeful in a way that, as much as the bad and the pain can be passed down, so can all these incredible things. It goes both ways.
I'm interested to hear any advice that you have for people who are in their 20s, or actually any age, to be honest, just from all the lessons that you have learned over your lifetime.
I think self-acceptance is something that we're not good at. I think we're always, especially in this, like I see with a lot of the young ones now, even with my young tamariki, there's a lot of comparing. I remember like you actually, when you were young, saying, I wish I had blonde hair and blue eyes.
Oh, Jay, that's shocking.
No.
But it was like,
That is shocking.
Barbie dolls and, things that you'll play with and toys that were, around. It was always, comparing and wanting to be other things. And I think, you have to just really know that you have your own mana And that comes from, you know, our tipuna and their mana. So we're working mana to mana with people. And if you know that, then you're safe. You're good. You know, in 5 years' time, you look at, you know, where you were now to where you are in 5 years' time and be like, is that trajectory all good? Am I safe? Am I happy? You know, I always think it sort of goes back down to like when I was young and my thinking of I'm not enough, not doing enough, and, you know, not Māori enough. You know, and I should learn more to do. I should be better at it than that. I should be, you know, really good at kapaka. I should be doing this, should be doing that. But really it's more about, I guess, self-love and self-acceptance and just accepting that you are where you are and you are who you are. And we're all uniquely, you know, divine through our whakapapa. So why, like...
Divine.
Bars. Yeah, it was funny, you were listening and I was like, these are like my, not even intrusive thoughts, but just the thoughts that are in my head, because I know you hold yourself to a high standard and I got that fun little trait from you as well.
You're welcome.
But I mean, it is good because, well, I see it as a positive thing, but it definitely, if you're not reminding yourself to be in that space of self-love and self-awareness, like I'm at the stage where I can think about that now, but that's because, you know, I get that because you've done that mahi already. For me, you've, you know, you really have paved the way.
I had to learn the hard way. It took me 40-something years. I'm glad you're reflective and know this at your age.
Thank you for joining us today, Mum. It's been really good to talk to you like this in this space, because we don't always go into the deep and meaningfuls, to be honest, not in this way. Thank you for sharing and being vulnerable with us as well. I know that wouldn't be easy.
I just want to say you both have such a beautiful relationship. Like, I just think you should be so proud, Auntie, of the daughter that you've raised alongside your other tamawhrikis who are coming up as well. But yeah, you should just be so proud of, especially with all the things that you've been through, and thank you for being so honest and open to us. Yeah.
Always. Thank you for having me. Kia ora.
Kia ora.
Nā New Zealand On Air, I tautoko.
Made with the support of New Zealand On Air.